I had actually in the beginning a umbrella with a mylar on top, and it was pretty good. It keeps you in shade, especially like from 10 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock at day when the sun is straight up.
I normally hike 2 miles an hour, or a little bit less depending on the terrain. But I noticed that some of the hikers that would go 3 to 4 miles an hour had more problems with the heat than I did. I think you have to remember that if you're out there and it's 100 or 105 degrees, you can't afford to raise your body temperature because you can't cool it off. It's not like being at home where you can go inside the shade or a cool house or whatever. You just have to prevent yourself from getting that hot because you can't cool off. And even if you're at a water source, the water might be warm and it's cooling, but it's not as cooling as cold water is going to be. And if you can't lower your body temperature, that's when you're in trouble.
I have a big fear of snakes in general, so Kia and David pretty much put me in between them as we hiked down the trail. And I actually, I'd get up to a rattlesnake and I would watch it for 5 minutes and see how it moved and see how it reacted to me. And then I became more comfortable with them when I found out they're pretty docile creatures.
First and foremost, get up before the sun rises. And if you can get out of camp by sunrise, you're really able to get 10 or 12 miles in before the real heat of the day hits you. And I think you're kind of ahead of yourself if you can do that. And when the midday sun really hits, find a Joshua tree, find some shade and stay there for 4 hours. If you have enough water, cook your dinner for lunch. And by the time 4 or 5 comes around, hike till 8 or 9 at night. You have plenty of light. It's late spring, early summer, longest days of the year. And then all of a sudden you have about 20 miles done.
When you plan on having a meal at one water spot, okay, and you hike basically until you get to the next one, and then you have your other meal which requires water, because it's a real pain to have to carry water just for a meal, whereas you want to just drink it.
If you're northbound and it's your first through hike, or your first time on the PCT, it might be a blessing that it's in the very beginning, because that's when your spirit of adventure and your spirit of being able to deal with things is at its peak. And also the Sierras is coming up, so that's always, in the rough times, you can always fantasize about the snow melt and the beautiful scenery coming up. Every 3 miles I drink a liter, which I think I didn't meet many people who drank more than that. And it wasn't always, on the dot, 3 miles a liter. But that when I was at a water source and I had 12 miles to go, and say I was going to cook at the next spot, so I didn't need to carry water for cooking, I would carry 4 liters. And that's 8 pounds, so.
The most important thing to do in the desert is if you get to a water source and you're in between water sources and you don't want to carry that much, drink as much as you can right then. Sometimes I hiked at night to the San Felipes. I started at 6 at night, went to midnight, woke up at 4:30, and then finished at 10:30 at Barrel Spring.
I carry a water bottle, about a quart-size water bottle, and 2 Platypus brand water containers. They carry about 2.5 quarts each. And with that much capacity, I've had to fill everything up twice.
Do the solar umbrella. I think it's an incredibly good idea. Although I was carrying it for so long because I was so scared about the Mojave Desert. It turned out the Mojave it was blowing wind so hard that I didn't even open my umbrella up. Water, just use this bladder, little MSR dealie, and did extra those big plastic bottles, Calistoga water bottles. And I had one of those for a while, one of those platypus things, but it was just sort of a pain in the butt. Desert travel I liked. I liked Chaparral. It was a little long. A month in the desert is probably more than I look.
And I was carrying usually about 2 gallons at the start, 6 or 7 quarts, so about a gallon and a half.
The desert, people will think they get an image in their mind of some flat, desolate, sandy place, you know, with a few cactus and a rock or two here and there. No shade, no nothing. But it's not like that at all, not up where I hiked, not where the trail goes. It's a lot of chaparral, and a lot of it's growed in to the trail and everything. And hiking with an umbrella is a pain in the butt, especially with a mylar covered one, because you come up to a place where the chaparral is higher than your head. It's all growed in, so you got your umbrella. I had it hooked to my pack, so I have to take it off my pack, collapse it, you know, and to get through the brush. And then I held it in my hand for a while, and that didn't work either. And in the wind, it wants to take it away from you. So I just hiked with a cap.
With the sun, I wore a large, wide-brimmed hat, which worked great. And this baseball hat probably wouldn't work because it would allow sun from the side, and this is not long enough to get the early morning sun. One thing I would suggest for future hikers is that they wear a long sleeve, cheap cotton shirt to protect even their arms, because what I did is I put sunblock on, but even that was not enough because I got heat rash. Just carried a dromedary bag, 10 liter. We didn't really need the 10 liters of that dromedary bag. Probably a 5 liter would have done.
Where there's no shade, I'd try to make shade with the tarp and the space blanket, and relax through the hot part of the day. I never really got into hiking at night. Some people did and enjoyed that, but I personally didn't like it. Even when I had a flashlight, it seemed like I was always stumbling about in the dark.
What we got were expensive brim hats with some sort of fancy space age material at the top that reflected the heat away and the sunlight away, and were very, very breathable, and that worked fine. Now, also because we had no intention of hiking too far during the day, we were getting up before dawn, leaving when it was about light enough to see, or thereabouts, and anywhere between as early as 9 a.m. in some brutally hot stretches, and never later than 11 a.m., we were putting up our tarp and holding up like rats and eating our main meal there, both to get rid of the food weight and the water weight to cook that meal, and then when it, relatively speaking, cooled off, going on again.
I didn't put the tent up there. At night you wake up and you see the stars. It's very pretty. You see lizards during the day, different kinds of the lizards, rattlesnakes, cactuses you never seen before. I really thought it was a very important part of this trail, and also a very nice part.